BLUF Gaming here with a Satisfactory video about Caterium ore and the products it makes available to us. There are several mineable ores in Satisfactory that currently have no use. While it isn't immediately apparent, Caterium is a notable exception. Caterium ore is yellow in color, but its deposits are otherwise fairly unremarkable. When you initially find it, you'll want to gather several hundred ores if you can to begin the research chain as you set up mining and transportation. The Caterium research chain will ask you progressively for Caterium ore, Quickwire, and finally supercomputers. Completing the research opens milestones at tiers 3, 5, and 6. Importantly, completing the tier 3 milestone enables you to scan for Caterium deposits, which will likely reveal deposits closer to your factory than whichever deposit at which you initially discovered Caterium. Caterium's utility is primarily focused on computer and electronics upgrades, but you do also get some personal upgrades along the way. Starting with the Tier 3 milestone, you gain the ability to scan for Caterium, 5 more inventory slots, a Mark II power pole with 6 connections, Bladerunners which are worn in your upper slot and grant faster sprinting, higher jumping, and lower fall damage, and a couple of intermediate ingredients used to make these items. At the Tier 5 Caterium milestone, you gain 3 more intermediate products and a smart splitter which lets you define which types of items split in which direction. Finally, at Tier 6, the Caterium milestone grants 4 more inventory slots, a Mark III power pole, this time with 8 connections, the ability to scan for geysers which can be harvested for energy using new geothermal generator buildings, and finally a programmable splitter which can't actually be built yet. Of course, there may also be Caterium specific milestones at Tier 7 and above, but at the time of this video, those tiers were not yet available. That's your bottom line up front. If you'd like to see more detail about Caterium and its products, stick around for the rest of the video. Thanks for sticking around. You may have run into various mineable ores in the world of Satisfactory such as quartz, sulfur, or uranium, which have no current use in the game. If that caused you to ignore Caterium at some point, well, go back and get some. This is one ore that's actually used, and if you don't go get it and research it first, you won't be otherwise prompted at your hub to go find some. As I said in the intro of the video, Caterium research leads to several useful items. Bladerunners will help you get around and save you a ton of time, and the upgraded power poles can make life a lot easier too. So, let's go tier by tier and look at each item we gain from Caterium. Let's start with Tier 3 and go through each item we can make in order. First off, we have the Caterium Ingot. If you've played Satisfactory at all, you probably already know how this will be made. Just use a regular refinery to convert Caterium ore into ingots. If you're the type who likes to match your production amounts exactly, however, it's worth noting that it takes 4 units of Caterium ore to make a single ingot, which is 4 times as expensive as iron or copper, but a bit cheaper than steel, which takes 3 iron and 3 coal. A single refinery produces 15 Caterium per minute without any overclocking, so feeding one with a Mark I belt of ore is sufficient. Next up we have Quickwire, the most demanded intermediate product from the Caterium line. You can make 4 Quickwire using only a single Caterium ingot, so a regular constructor is the building to use to produce it, with each constructor able to produce up to 60 per minute. As this is a high volume product, you'll want to transport it with a high level conveyor belt, assuming you're transporting it to a main bus system. Aside from Quickwire, there are 3 other intermediate products introduced in the Caterium line. 2 of those, the AI limiter and high-speed connector, require Quickwire as an ingredient, and the last one, the Supercomputer, requires both of those 2 as an ingredient, so you'll be needing a lot of Quickwire. Also, every constructed item from the Caterium line, power poles, smart splitters, etc., requires Quickwire, either directly or in one of its intermediate items. Tier 3 also gives you the Mark II power pole. Compared with the Mark I power pole, it's between 66% and 100% better than its predecessor. Since it has 6 connections and the Mark I only has 4, it seems like it would be a 50% improvement. However, any pole must have at least 1 incoming line to give it power. That means the Mark I only has 3 usable connections while the Mark II has 5, making it 5/3 as good as the Mark I or 66% better. Of course, many poles not only have a line bringing power in, but another sending power to a new pole. For these transmission lines, the Mark I pole only has 2 free connections to use on structures, whereas the Mark II has 4 free, or twice as many. In these instances, there's a strong argument to be made that the Mark II is twice as good as the Mark I. Bladerunners require 50 Quickwire, 3 modular frames, and 3 rotors to construct. They're equipped in your upper slot, and it can be tough to decide if you're going to use these or a jetpack. Personally, for running around my factory, I prefer the extra speed of Bladerunners. If I'm out exploring, however, I do keep a jetpack in my inventory in case I need to reach a high location. As I said in the intro, they make you sprint considerably faster than normal and give you a nice improvement on your jumping height and distance. They also allow you to fall farther before taking fall damage. Moving on to Tier 5, we get 1 new structure we can build and 3 new intermediate items. The new structure is the Smart Splitter, which I mentioned earlier, which works like a regular splitter, except it lets you define what may go through each exiting conveyor. While I haven't checked to see if every item is on the list, it certainly seems like that's the case. And you also have the option to allow nothing or anything to pass through. Using a series of smart splitters, you could conceivably construct an automated sorting system that separates any items you put in a container and send them to the appropriate place. While I haven't done that for every item, I have set up a junk box that I can empty my inventory into whenever it gets too full, which automatically takes out all of the leaves and wood to make into biomass and biofuel that gets sent back with everything else into my large junk storage. Of course, to be sure that I catch any already made biomass, I had to add a second smart splitter here that sends biomass back this direction to be made into fuel. The next Tier 5 Caterium item is the AI limiter, which is just an intermediate product used to make other items. So far, it's only used in making smart splitters and supercomputers, so it's understandable if you don't automate these quite yet, as you could feasibly handcraft all your AI limiters and supercomputers just to finish the few things you need them for. If you do decide to automate AI limiters as I have, a simple assembler gets the job done, and each limiter will take 1 circuit board and 8 Quickwire. The assembler will make 5 per minute, and as there's no need to mass produce supercomputers yet, you really don't need more than 1 or 2 assemblers unless you're just gearing up for future content. Skipping over to the high-speed connector, we see it takes 3 components, meaning we'll have to use a manufacturer if we want to mass produce it. Although just like the AI limiter, you could get by with handcrafting these until more content is released, since high-speed connectors are currently only used in supercomputers and Mark III power poles. Each high-speed connector takes 40 Quickwire, 10 cables, and 6 plastic. They take quite a while to make, as one manufacturer only makes 2.5 per minute, so we'll need to be prepared for a lot of manufacturers of these if high-speed connectors ever become a high-demand component. Saving the best, or maybe the most annoying for last, we have supercomputers as an intermediate component in Tier 5. You're going to make some of these to unlock Tier 6, which will be rather annoying as they're a pain to make. But if you've automated AI limiters and high-speed connectors, then handcrafting supercomputers won't be bad at all. I'll be automating mine for the next video. Supercomputers take 2 computers, 2 AI limiters, 3 high-speed connectors, and 21 plastic to make, so you'll need to build manufacturers to mass produce them. If you've already automated the production of computers, you know how expensive these are. A manufacturer makes 1.875 supercomputers per minute, so don't expect your conveyors to be too overly full of them. Finally, we have Tier 6. First off, we get the Mark III power pole, which has 8 connections, and comparing it to the Mark I as we did with the Mark II, the Mark III power pole is between 2 1/3 and 3 times more effective than the Mark I, the only drawback being, of course, the price, as each Mark III pole costs 3 cement, 2 steel pipes, and 1 high-speed connector. Yes, there is a programmable splitter listed under Tier 6, but one of its components cannot be made yet. This splitter calls for a turbo motor, and so far as I know, we can't construct that yet. Since it's in Tier 6, my guess is that we'll be getting new milestones to accomplish in our current tiers at some point in the future, as well as the very obviously locked tiers of 7 and above. Finally, we have the introduction of geothermal energy. Tier 6 lets you scan for geysers, which can provide a fuel-free source of energy. The nearest geyser to me, however, is located more than 1.5 kilometers away, with 2 more showing up on the scan more than 3 kilometers away. To harness energy from these, we'll need to build a geothermal generator, which requires 4 heavy modular frames, 8 supercomputers, 25 cables, and 20 rubber. They're placed upon geysers, which you may have run into prior to being able to scan them, as they're quite apparent when spraying steam into the air. Each geothermal generator produces 200 megawatts. But unfortunately, at the time of the making of this video, they cannot be improved with power shards, as the building screen warns that its menu is not yet functional at this point in early access. I hope this was helpful for you and encourages you to go out and find some Caterium if you haven't already. I look forward to the implementation of other ores we already know are available, and hopefully the April content update will bring us some of that. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, and be sure to comment and let me know how I'm doing and if there's anything I can do to improve my videos. Of course, you can dislike as well, but if you dislike the video, I'll ask YouTube to team up with Coffee Stain and insert unskippable ads in the loading screen of the Satisfactory game itself. Thanks for watching Bottom Line Up Front, and stay effective, engineers.